In this tutorial, we will take a look at how to process 2D images in the Planmeca Romexis 2D imaging module. So we'll basically go through the functions that we have on the right side, image processing toolbar in the module. So let's start by opening some images. So if I select here, for example, 2 images by keeping the control down, I can open 2 images simultaneously. And firstly, like actually shown already in the other tutorial, we could determine the layout for these opened images. So we could determine if they would be next to each other or on top of each other, and so on. I'll keep the layout as it is. And now, if we have several images opened, we need to make sure that we are processing the right image. So we can recognize which image is active by taking a look at the color of this upper bar here on top of the image. So if we click on the image, the bar turns blue, and this is now the image that we're going to process. So we need to make sure that we are processing the right image. Also, this overview shows us which image is currently active. And let's firstly take a look at these functions that we have related to each of the images. So firstly here we could change a little bit the visualization. We could view this image in actual pixels. We could fit it to the space available. We could zoom in and out. We could, by the way, we could also use the mouse wheel for that. I'll fit it back to the image viewing area. And from here we could open the image properties. So here we get to this image properties general tab, so we can see what type of image that is. We can see the orientation, we could change that. We can see some image values and exposure date. We could mirror the image. We could define tooth numbering, and we could give the image a comment. And then from here, from this speech bubble icon, we can open directly diagnosis tab. So previously we were here in the general tab of the image properties, and here in diagnosis we could write our diagnosis to the image and save it by clicking OK. And then we can maximize the image. So if we have several images opened, this one will give the whole space for the one image. We can minimize it back. And then if we still want to have more space for the image, we could maximize the image on full screen. So this one would hide basically everything else, and we could view the image on a full screen. We could still get our image processing toolbar visible, and then we can get back to the normal viewing mode by clicking ESC on keyboard. Okay, so that was about working on several images. Let's close the other image so we can focus only on the one image. So we still have some shortcuts here if we right click on top of the image. So we could also from here we could access the properties of the image. We could align the image. For example, if we would have here several images, we could align whether the image is aligned to the bottom or the top. So now it's centered here in the image viewing area. Or we could also from here we could copy this image to clipboard and then of course paste it elsewhere. Or we could move move this image to another patient, assign this image as a face photo, so this would show in the patient list for the patient, or we could inactivate the image. So inactivation again means that the image is removed from this patient's file, but it can still be retrieved back to Romexis from Romexis configuration application. What else? So let's take a look at this image processing toolbar here. It has a couple of functions. We can actually customize a little bit how the toolbar looks like. So like you see here, we could temporarily hide some of these sections by clicking on this arrow here. And then it's also possible to right-click on top of an icon, and we can get to customize the toolbar. So we could select here which functions are visible and which not. So if there's something that we never use, we can hide them so that we can get the simple toolbar. Actually, what I forgot to show in another tutorial was that the same applies also for the upper toolbar. So also here by right-clicking, we can have the option of determining what functions are visible and what not. So here in 2D module we can customize the view. Then let's take a look at how we can adjust images. So firstly here we have the histogram where we can determine which grayscale values are visible, and we can use the gamma for adjusting the image. We can also change the coloring of the image by clicking on this drop down here. So we could also use some pseudo colors to view the image if we would like to. And here's another option for adjusting the image. So we can adjust the contrast, brightness and sharpness of the image by using these sliders here. So this is an alternative way of adjusting the image. And there's one more way for adjusting the image. So we could use the right mouse button. So if we keep the right mouse button down and we move our mouse from left to right, we can adjust brightness. And if we move, still keeping the right mouse button down, if we move our mouse from top to bottom, we can adjust the contrast. So this is also one way for adjusting the image. And now that we are making these adjustments, we can go back by undo, or we can revert so that the adjustments get cancelled. And another way for accessing the original image is here in image history. So this image history lists all the adjustments that we have made to the image. So we never lose the original image. We can always click here and we will get back. But if we prefer to view our images always with some certain adjustments, we could select the adjustments here in the image processing history, and we could select here in the file menu save image enhancement as default enhancements. So then these adjustments that we have selected here would always be applied to new exposures of this image type, so new exposures of panoramic, for example. Then how we can also adjust the images, we have here a couple of filters, image processing filters that we could use. There's a more detailed description in the user's manual of Romexis, but basically with the Clarify we can adjust the contrast locally or to the whole image, so we can determine the extent and strength of the filter. And then with this speckle function, we can remove noise from the image, so we can select some pre-selected areas. For example, if there's some scratch or some dust in the image, those can get removed with this filter. Then we can also optimize optimize a selected region of interest in the image with this function. Then we have normal image inversion, and then we could sharpen the image with this filter, and then if we have a cephalometric image and we would like to see the soft tissue better, there's a filter for that as well. Well, here we can determine a little bit how we are viewing the image. So here we have a little bit the same functions what we have also here. So we could zoom the image to fit on the screen. We could view it in actual pixels. We could scale several images to the same size. Then here, if we would like to view the image in more detail and at the same time be able to practically change the filter, we could use this magnifier here. So here, like you see, we can magnify the image and we can examine any part of the image as we wish. And we can also adjust the size by using the mouse wheel. And then here, practically by right-clicking, we can toggle between different filters. So maybe we would like to simply apply a different filter to see different kind of details on separate parts of the image. So that's practical for that. This is pan rating tool, so we can just pan the image on the screen. And then if we would like to adjust only a specific area of the image, we could activate this last button, region of interest, and by keeping mouse left button down, we could draw a rectangle here. And now if we would make image adjustments, they would only get applied on that specific area. Then if we want to process our image, we can make measurements. So here we could calibrate the image. Basically for this one we need to know some measurement here in the image, and then once when we know the distance of some part here, we would draw it in the image, and we would get to type the actual length in millimeters, and that way the image would be calibrated. Then we could measure angles. We could measure just normal lines. Well, a little bit like I was doing with the calibration tool. So here we also see the measurement. And here, if there's a black corner in the icon, that means that there are more options available. So we could click on the black corner, and we could get also polyline measurement available. Well, here with the line profile, we could examine the grayscale values along a line drawn in the image, or then we could see the histogram of some specific area, or then we could hide the measurement labels if they are blocking our view, for example. In addition to measurements, we can also make different kind of other annotations, so drawings on the image. Here we have lots of options for drawing lines, for drawing horizontal lines across the image, or vertical lines and curved lines. We can draw rectangles, ellipses. We can make notes on the image. So if there's anything we want to highlight for the person who would be receiving these images, for example, we can use the tools here. So we could add arrows and anything here, and we can modify the looks of these annotations here, and we can manage them practically through this object browser here. So here, like you see, we have annotations and measurements grouped in their own categories. So with this eye icon, we can show and hide the different annotations in the image. So I could, for example, hide the measurement completely. and we can select the different objects by clicking here. So this object gets bold, and now we could, for example, access changing of color. So we could change the color. We could also do it through this rectangle here, or then we could change the width. So for example, if we would like to make this arrow a little bit thicker, we could use these adjustments here. And here through the object browser we can also easily delete unnecessary annotations. So I could just tick the respective box of the annotation that I want to delete, and I could use the corresponding trash can icon here. Then what's more here, implant planning tools, these are not included by default in the 2D module. So here we have basically the same implant library that we have in the 3D imaging module. So if we want to plan implants here with the projected 2D views, we can access the implant library from here. So let's see, this patient doesn't even need implants, but if we anyway, just to see it, select some implant from here, and then we need to make the implant active so that we can use these control points to rotate it, and we can grab the implant with the mouse and move it to the right place. So, and here we can see the properties for that implant, or we could replace the implant with another one from the library. But like I said, implant planning tools are not included here by default. So that's an extra license feature to the 2D module. Okay, that was about the image processing tools here. Basically, still one more thing, just to show if we have a SmartPan image, so we can recognize a SmartPan image. So basically, a 2D image stack with this icon here in the corner. So processing SmartPan images is a little bit different. So firstly, we can navigate between the different images in the stack by using the slider here next to the image, and then also there are some differences compared with normal images, how these different processings are applied to SmartPan images. So you may check Romexis Users Manual for more information.